You guys, this is one of the last Lizzie Jane podcast episodes of 2024, and we have one heck of a guest joining me. LYNY is coming to you live from the podcast studio in Denver. It was so awesome to speak with him after so many years of seeing the project prosper. He is such an intelligent individual, and I really didn't know what to expect sitting down to this conversation because he has always been so well-mannered and kind and nice and just a wicked experienced beast of a producer in the DAW. So I thought that this conversation could go many ways, but he is absolutely on fire right now. And I think if you listen to this conversation, you're just going to want to support him and listen to his music and buy his merch and go to his shows even more, because it was seriously one of the most enlightening conversations I've had all year. No joke. This is definitely a conversation for the audiophiles. So if you are a producer or a music maker or in the DAW or aspiring to learn, this is such an inspiring conversation, and this is absolutely for you. I feel like him and I could have chatted it up for 3-4 hours easily about audio and the industry and so much more, but for now you have a good solid 45 minutes, and it was just so sick. He is crushing his shows right now. His records and flips and bootlegs have been in everyone's DJ sets forever. I remember Jump Bros when it came out a few years ago, and my head just turning and going, what the hell was that? And now he's just released banger after banger after banger and is truly one of the most unique sound designers in the bass music game, period. And I think there's so much to learn from his approach to music, educating himself on multi-genre cultures, and just what's next for the LYNY project. He's always going to be surprising us. So let's hop into it. As always, if you love what you're hearing, like, comment, share, subscribe, tag me, tag LYNY, tag the podcast page. It is the only way that this is being shared. We're all about the organic growth here. Let's just let the conversation speak for itself. This is Lizzie Jane, and you are tuning into my podcast with special guest LYNY. LYNY, thank you for coming on the podcast today.
That is the mic good distance.
That is perfect. Is that comfortable for you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
sweet. Yeah, we're here live from Denver, direct support Mission Ballroom for Barclay Crenshaw.
Yep. I played Mission before. It was with Closey on New Year's, and it was crazy.
Ooh.
It was wild. So I love this venue. Cervantes was amazing as well. I love Denver so much. So just the scene here,
yeah,
is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, and Denver has such a bandwidth for you to grow as an artist.
Oh, yeah.
Where you can come and play these 250 cap venues, and then you go to Larimer Lounge, to Ogden, to Church, and then Mission, and then Red Rocks. But Mission's the pinnacle of the indoor venues.
Yeah, it's a beautiful venue. From everything, from the way the venue is, the way it operates, just the size, the looks of it, everything. The disco ball, which I just learned a little bit about today.
The disco ball is so cool.
That's crazy.
It's wild. When I learned that sonically, they actually replicate row by row Red Rocks in this venue, which is a little fun fact. Yeah.
That's
so
sick.
Once it starts in the Shakespearean type arena of this venue, it's literally row by row what you would hear at Red Rocks.
That's dope.
Which is so
fucking dope. Yeah.
pristine.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. That's insane. Yeah.
It's insane. It's real intelligence behind it. And you've got your visual guy here. We were just talking about time-coded visuals.
I'm so excited.
The LYNY project has been stepping up. It's been you've just been growing massively. I feel like your tracks and records are in everybody's sets, where it's been that way for a while. But now you've got these time-coded visuals. You've got the headline tour. How does it feel?
Honestly, I guess, like, everyone would say the same, like, you don't really know how, things are happening around you, they just kinda happen, and then they're in your face one day, and you're like, "Holy shit," and you just look back, and that's, like it's a pretty cool thing, but, I'm mad grateful for what's happening, like, this year especially, I've always, like you said, I feel like I've been in a lot of people's sets, and, like, there was people that, like, they didn't really know about me, and I think, like, this year has been the year where people are, like, turning and being like, "Oh, that's who he is. I've heard Sick before." So it feels really nice. I appreciate it. It's been a great year, and the headline tour has been fantastic. Like, best tour of my life. I am just, like, so stoked about it still, but yeah, I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. I mean, the venues and, like, the intimate venues look absolutely crazy, and it's
Mhm.
just, like, a testament to, like, how you have approached your project, where I feel like you've done your time in support plays, and you've done your time touring and touring and touring, and then you kinda it's really intimidating as an artist that's up and coming to take that step, especially not to, like, ring it out, especially in this economy,
Yeah,
but
no,
especially,
exactly. No,
like,
really in this
ticket
economy.
sales are hard, like,
Mhm.
people and fans are having to choose on what they wanna do, and, like,
Oh,
to
yeah.
I think to come out right now in this day and age and smash a headline tour is massive as your first one.
Thank you.
Like,
Seriously, thank you.
it has to like, there's not a lot of artists doing what you're doing, which is super, super awesome. Do you
Mhm.
feel like the way that you've approached your project, which I always feel like it's been, like, head down, beats first, like, 100%.
Yeah.
Do you feel like
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
like, a testament to where you're at, where you haven't really, like, done this whole, "I'm gonna just, like, do the social media game, and I'm gonna do this," like, it's always been about the music for you?
Yeah, for honestly, for me, so I'm not very good at social media. I just kind of like again, I think since I was, a kid, I just put my head down and made beats. I'm almost like a competitive person, so back in the day, we'd be in, like, these big Discord chats, and we would just, like, remix music, like, just make beats or whatever, and I would just get so inspired, and I'd be like, "No, I can do this, like, a little bit better," and I would go in my studio and, like, get off Discord, then come back to them and be like, "Check this out." Like, it always I don't know, I always wanted to, it's not for more so impressing, but I just really like high quality mix downs. I really like, like, hearing new noises, unique stuff that comes out. That's why I'm super inspired by, like, Flume and Skrillex and those guys that are just, like every time it seems they make a track, you're just like, "Okay, you just opened up, like, a new world, like, a new portal to music." I think that's what I wanna do. So, like, I don't know, it's been a very long journey, and I like the way you put it, honestly. I think, like, um, I it's hard to explain because, like, I just again, I'm at the end of the day, I'm just a kid at a computer, like, making weird noises, but I do have, like, this attachment to audio, and I really like audio, and I really like learning about audio. Like, I learn something new every single day. So, I think, like, over time, just, working at it, getting my mix sounds better, getting the sounds right, getting everything, track structure, moving genres because I tend to do that a lot, like, unintentionally, but, I think it's just, it has been really just putting my head down and making beats. I didn't really know where I was gonna go with it, to be quite honest, like and I always told myself, like, "It's okay if you don't do well, at least, like, you're trying really hard, you're doing your best," and that's, like I think I'm, beginning to tell myself that again, like, even, like, as big stuff happens, bad stuff happens too, so it doesn't, like, it never stops. You're always like this, and you're always
Never
nervous, you always feel like you're gonna, like, fall off, or you're always just like, I don't know. So it's best to not like think about it and just, sit at home and make beats. And that's yeah, put your head down and make beats. I really like how you put that, but yeah.
No, I love it. I
Mhm.
mean, you're, like, through and through a true audiophile.
Yeah,
Like,
I really like audio. I
keep
appreciate it.
learning all the time. I mean, I think that's so exciting about what producers and, like, what we do is that there's, like, an infinite world and universe of things that we can learn about every day, and there's a
Mhm.
million ways to do the same thing. And then it's like, what are you going to decide on how you want to do it? And with your, like, influences being Flume, Skrillex, I mean, you can hear that. I think it's really easy to emulate now, like, through, like,
Mhm.
YouTube University or Discord or
Oh
one-on-one
yeah,
lessons,
of
like,
course.
do
Yeah.
I wanna sound like Virtual Riot Drop 2 or Rez or this or
Yeah.
that, and you can get an FL or you can get an Ableton and you can make it happen,
Mhm.
but it's really, really difficult to just put your best foot forward and create, like, a sound of your own. There's
Yeah.
very fucking few producers out there that can turn your head and you go, "That's a LYNY drop," and you can do that with your records. So,
Yeah.
like,
No,
you
I
really
appreciate
can.
that.
Everyone
Thank you.
knows
Thank
it's
you.
you, and I don't
Yeah.
know, like, when you get to, like, the creative process,
Mhm.
where does that, like, sit for with you? Like, is it different every time? Like, what DAW do you work in? Like, what are your favorite VSTs?
Ooh, so great question. I use FL Studio. So I was a hip hop producer before EDM. So I was just
Okay.
making trap beats, hip hop beats. I was getting like a few placements. Like I remember when I was like really young, Toby Lou was one of my first big placements, and he's like really, really, really good.
Mhm.
And at the time he was a little bit smaller, but he was just like too undeniably good to not blow up. So he did, and he started working with Smino and all that. But that was when I was like in high school, just making beats almost for myself and just like, I had nothing. So I wasn't paying rent with beats or anything like that. I
Mhm.
wasn't like, so a placement here and there would be sick. It would be, like, because I would get screwed over by contracts and stuff because I was so young, no management. It was just for me at the end. I didn't get anything out of it except the excitement of being like, oh, I produced for this person. So it was really cool. But yeah, I was a hip hop producer. So FL Studio was really big in the Chicago scene. So everyone who was like a hip hop producer in Chicago, or most people, were in FL. And you just like clip your drums in the DAW and just make these like rougher, like drill beats almost. Like,
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
grab samples and do your thing. So then I think when I was listening to like Skrillex and like more so like a lot of the dubstep guys back in the day, I should say like bro step, like I don't even know how to describe that genre. Like
No,
when it
bro
when it
stuff
was
was
around,
hot when
yeah,
we were
like when it was
young.
around.
Yeah.
But like when that genre started like gaining more popularity, like it turned my ear and I was like, whoa, this is sick. Like I want to learn how to sound design. I want to learn how to make like a growl or like
Mhm.
something like crazy. So I started, transitioning from hip hop to EDM. And I think that's where trap music fell into the line. So like I was just a trap producer, like an EDM trap producer for like a long time. It felt really good, honestly. Like I love making those beats. My parents didn't love the beats as much as my hip hop stuff because the listenability was very low. Like
Yeah.
it was just kind of like weird noises. And I remember like back in the day, my drums were like so loud, like too loud for anything, for anyone's own good. But I just like loved it. I loved guys like K Tronada or Mr. Carmack that like,
Yes.
but they did it better. Their drums were loud but better. Like they had it, toned down with like limiters and clippers and things like that made it sound great. But I think I was just like I wanted to have those type of drums.
How
But
do I do that?
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I fell in love with trap music, like the EDM trap, and then it just kept going. I think the creative process now is I just like sit down and make anything that comes to my mind. Like I make a lot of house now just because I fell in love with the genre and I did a bunch of diving and like went to a bunch of house shows like the past like 5 years. And then, I started realizing like you really do have to like almost know the culture of the genres a little bit to really separate yourself when you want to make those because like when you make a house beat, and I didn't know this for the longest time, like I think 909 drums are like super important and like things like that. Like you want an open hi-hat that like is the like 909 hat or something of the sort, like for like a techier house style. Like techier is probably not a word, but for the tech house style. But
Yes.
yeah, so things like that. And I fell in love with like learning about the culture of the genre, learning about how it was made, how it was developed. And so every time I go and attack anything, like even like drum and bass, I was making drum and bass for like a little bit, but I still like, I was big fans of guys like Annex, like some of the underground, like drum and bass,
Mhm.
like legends that were just
Yes.
like under Noisia, just doing the craziest shit, experimental. So yeah, I guess the creative process is like, I used to call it ADHD producing because like I would just want to go, I would like distract myself with the amount of ideas that I wanted to do. Like I wanted to do everything. So now I'm trying to put out more house music. I'm trying to put out, just pretty much any genre, like even like 144 on the floor, just some things that are different. But I think at the end of the day, if I can make it sound like me, if it really does come from me and it's, I like the track and I love the track, I should put it out and I shouldn't really be afraid to do that. And I think everyone should do that, especially now. Like
Especially now.
it's the best way to separate yourself is just put out what you love. Don't listen to put the blinders on. Just do what you love. I don't know.
No,
But
absolutely. I mean, that's what, like, Taiki was saying. He's just like,
Mm.
now is it because we were talking about how people really used to it's pigeonhole themselves by making the same thing over and over and over again. And it's like everything from like Taiki to Wax Motif is just like the times now. Like the times now, like the fans are ready, the consumers are like ready. And you see people at very elementary levels and people who have been around for 2 decades switching stuff up. Tiesta's playing fucking drum and bass on main stage. Like it's happening. And I think that makes it so exciting. But I also think that you're correct in the fact of like, know what you're making before you make it. I think it's easy to take the techniques and styles of trap music and say, well, house doesn't seem that hard. But then there's all these different techniques and styles for that subgenre and that subculture. And if you want to do it and you want to release it, it's cool, but at least be like educated on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It helps. That was my biggest problem. Your example was my biggest problem. I had the ego where I was just a trap kid. And then I was like, I didn't really love house when I was a kid, like, ages like 12 to like 16. I was always like, I was turning a blind eye to it because I was like, come on, this is easy to make. And then it comes to the time where I go and try to make a house track. I couldn't do it. And none of my house sounded like proper house. Like it just didn't sound, because I didn't know anything about it. And I went in with like an ego attitude, like, or an egotistical attitude. Like I just didn't care. And I was like, you know what? Then I started realizing like, I'm going to go and listen to the guys that really do it. And now I'm like one of Chris Lake's biggest fans. Like I love his shit and I love his production so much. So like, it's so funny how that works. Like, but I think like exposing yourself and just not being like, let your ego go. Don't think you're better than any genre. Don't think you're better than anyone. Just do your thing. Like I think it's like, it's really cool because then you start unlocking like more things. And then you're like, oh yeah, I know how to make like a proper tech house track now because like I get how they're structuring their stuff, how they approach it or whatever. Then you can go and sprinkle in your own little creativity.
Yes.
And that's when a really fucking cool beat comes out or song or record.
Hybrid combination of these crazy subgenres. But that's how you unlock the Flume, the Skrillex, the next level.
Exactly.
Like it's,
I think so.
And especially in like the land of producers, we get again so much in this kind of routine of I make dubstep, I listen to dubstep, I consume dubstep.
Right.
And that's it. Right. And you miss out on all of these. It's always interesting to me around this time of year where we get like the Spotify Wrapped. I love seeing artists Spotify Wrapped because it tells me like, where are you also like taking your influences from? You've got everybody from like Childish Gambino to Metallica on like one list. And you're like, okay, this is sick because like the more influences that you have, the more it's just going to inspire you to go, how the fuck do I do that? And then it makes your own shit better.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like at home, it's really funny when, because my Spotify Wrapped, I think like Ross from Friends is at the top, like King Cruel's always up there. Like I said this in another interview pretty recently. But one of the guys that really stands out to me that has just been in their own fucking lane for forever, Jerry Folk. And if you haven't heard of Jerry Folk, he's incredible.
Okay.
Like incredible. And it's funny, like I knew of him like a really long time ago from like he was making like future bassier stuff, like super like high energy, like chords. And now he's like on this like indie alt path, but he's taken all his EDM, like almost like his influence. And it is just like incredible. But sidetrack. But yeah, like I'm never really listening to like the genre that I make almost. It's kind of funny. Like I just like take little bits and pieces. I'm almost more inspired by the person and how they approach it and how they do their things rather than like, the genre that they're based in. Like it's like, I don't know, like Ross from Friends I love is because like he doesn't really care in the best way possible. Like he is such a talented producer, one of the most talented in the world, but like all of his outputs are like so unique. Like they're so different from the entire landscape. So like, I don't know. It's when I hear someone like that, I'm like, oh man, like you're like really trying to change it and you're like really doing this for yourself. Like I love that. I love that so much. Like doing an over mono dive. This is another example to bring it back because I was making a lot of like garage stuff, like or like two step or just like progressions like that.
So fucking good.
They're amazing, and they just have like the touch to their music. It's different. So doing like an over mono dive and then seeing who like influenced them and just doing the whole like it's again back to the culture thing, like really just honing in on the genre and learning about them because then you learn so much about the genre and know what to apply and like when to apply it. But yeah, I actually think Over Mono was probably my number one on Spotify. Now
That
that I
makes
think
sense.
about it,
They're killers.
it's just amazing music.
Beautiful
It's
music.
so perfect. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's perfect.
And they have, influences from, I feel like, everything from, like, alt indie to Flume to Noisia.
Easily,
Like,
easily.
across to pop,
Everything,
you
yeah,
know?
everything.
It's
Yeah, they're, like, really good at, like, a pop structure, but they bring it into this, like, garage world, and it's so cool. And
It's
pop
so cool.
structures, those are hard.
Those are
I'm not
hard.
sleeping on pop music. Like, they caught me, in the store listening to the Harry Styles track, and I actually was like, "You know what? Whoever structured this song
Is a fucking
did a
genius.
good job.
Yeah.
This is a good track." Like, and that, now it's funny how, like, you let your ego down in terms of that, and you start to open your world up. Like, you're just like, "Oh my gosh." Like, I could start, like, really hearing why these songs are so great. Like, it's amazing. But, yeah, pop music is not easy. I make a lot of, like, alternative and Indian pop on the side. It'll probably come out someday on, like, another project. Maybe I'll dabble it in here, like, at some point. But man, it's hard. That is so hard.
It's
Like,
hard.
it's so much different. You have to almost be lazy, like, in a good way. You have to tone back everything. I used to clip my drums, but now I wanna be like Goth Babe and, like, turn my drums so light and, like, so
Yes.
lo-fi. Like, I don't know. It's amazing though, but
I mean, I think it's just, like, such a testament to the journey of, like, being an artist or a producer yourself, is, like, you start with such an idea, like, whether that's, like, the idea of approaching your career or your business or, like, approaching the DAW and, like, how you're gonna create, and you're
Right.
like, "This is the way that I'm gonna create, and this is me stuck in my ways," and as the journey continues, I feel like everyone at one point starts to let these, like, predetermined walls down.
Yeah.
And you
Mhm.
start to kinda see what else is going on around you,
Exactly.
and it's sometimes intimidating, but it's also like, "Whoa," like, there's this whole other fucking world,
Yep.
and it's
Exactly.
cool, it's cool.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a beautiful thing, really. I think Skrillex is really good at that. I don't know him
Uh,
personally, but I can almost feel it in the music that he's very good at, exposing himself to as many different genres, as many different, places
he's a
that, like,
tastemaker.
yeah,
He sees what's coming about 10 miles before anyone else does,
yeah,
and then he attaches himself to the individuals that are pushing that wave. He learns from them
exactly.
because who the fuck doesn't wanna sit in the room with Skrillex?
Yep, no, exactly.
And then it becomes a part of his next record.
Yep.
I mean, I remember when yeah, Quest for Fire, that was his last
Yeah,
one, yeah.
that was
When
amazing.
the dual records came out and he had
Mhm.
this crazy banger journey, and
Yeah.
then you listen to the other one and it's being played at
Super,
all the
like,
fucking
chill.
bars,
Yeah,
and it's
exactly. It's
crazy.
amazing.
It's incredible.
Amazing.
But then you look at the credits, which is such a thing that, like, I
Oh,
always
yeah.
encourage people to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, "If you think your favorite producer that's playing 400 shows a year and flying
Yeah.
backwards in a private jet is making
Yeah.
all of his music, you need to open
Mhm.
your eyes and see who else is, like, under the covers, because it's so cool
Mhm. It
to
is.
see what types of, like, people are parts of other projects and how
Right.
fucking massive projects can be.
Oh, yeah.
What is your thought on, like, that? Because we come from a culture where, especially in bass music,
Mhm.
I think that there's a stigma that's starting to be lightened on, but it's like, you're your own producer, you're in your closet, you do it your fucking self.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's important. Like, I don't know. I think it's great when you can have like-minded people, or even if they're not like-minded in the whatever space you're working in, like, in terms of, like, your genre, for example. I know we keep bringing it up, but, like, I think it's very important to collaborate. I think it's very important, and I think it's important because, like, I was going to do an album, which, like, I didn't tell many people about this, but I was going to do an album, and then I realized that, like, it almost like there wasn't enough collaboration, and it gave me the reason of why I didn't like what I was doing. Like, I didn't like the album. I didn't like where it was going, and it's because I was being so specific. Like, you really have to be, like, open, and you have to, like, it can be your album at the end of the day. You can mix and master it the way you want to, but I think just being open and bringing people in the studio that are, like, the best at what you're trying to do is, like, a really, really, like, progressive thing to do for, like, your career, for, like, your knowledge in music, like, just everything. Like, I think it's super, like, I don't know, it's slept on in a good way. Like, I don't
Mhm.
know, Skrillex did a very good job at that, but it makes me, like, and I realize nowadays, like, when I finished, an Indian alternative record the other night, and I was so proud of it, and I was like, "You know what? Like, I can't be the only one, like, I wanna hear other people's thoughts that really, like, know this genre, that know how to do this." So I sent it to Tie Dye Kai. And I was like, hey, how do you feel about this? I know you've never heard me do this shit, but like, I want your ears on this, like, or whatever. And I realized like I was doing that, like I was going to someone that has a higher understanding of that genre because they've just been crushing it in that genre for like
Years.
so long. Yeah, like so long and like
So long.
amazing tracks and beautiful music. So I don't know. And if I ever like went and made a drum and bass tune now, like when I make house tunes, for example, I will go and send it to the house producers in Chicago.
Yeah.
Like I tried to, get my music to everyone, like in terms of like who's
Like,
doing the tech
roast
house,
me.
right? Yeah.
Every all the
Like
people.
literally, because then I'm
Yeah.
like, literally, yeah, roast me.
Yeah.
Like tell me why this is shit.
How you
Like
get better.
because then it improves that track so much. Because then you almost want their opinion because like I'm making house music. This isn't my typical genre, so I'm going. I like how it's circling right back to the same.
I love it.
Collaboration's so good. It's
so
so good.
good. So
Reach out to your homies, even if it's your homies. Like they don't even have to be like music writers. Bring your homies in, bring your loved ones in. How do they feel about the track? Like you don't have to always take opinion. I have to make this important. Like always take people's opinions with a little bit of like a grain of salt, only because like if you don't agree with them right away and you still love it, it's really important that
stay
you know,
true.
don't let them
Can't listen.
be
You
like,
can't let all the voices
exactly,
in, or you're never gonna know
you
what
have
to
to
do.
like
Yeah.
back up and understand you're not going to please everyone ever. You will never please everyone ever. So
Ever.
you really need to like take a step back and be like, okay, I love this. Even if they don't like it, it is my track at the end of the day. I'm going to put this out or I'm going to make this adjustment because I do love it. But, on the opposing end of that, like it is really good to hear people's opinions and hear how they feel about it. Like it's super good, honestly. Like not more so like opinions, but like collaborating with it. Like hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
And maybe try it out. Because sometimes it'll work in the best way you could ever imagine. You're like, oh my God, you were right. I should have listened to you like this whole time. And that's when when you surround yourself in a room with like a bunch of really talented kids, I think that's like so beneficial. I wanted to do like writing camps for that reason. Like, I really wanted to do that in
Writing
Chicago.
camps are so sick, and there's not enough of them in electronic music.
I agree. Chicago would be a
not.
great place to do it. If anyone's interested in Chicago, like do a
Dude,
writing camp.
that would be so
But
fun.
yeah.
Where you just we've done it a few times here, where you get like a house in the mountains for like 2 or 3 days,
Oh, yeah.
and everyone goes out.
Yep.
Like we've done one with Amanu and like a few
Mhm.
others that have Caption was out here.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
My friend Devin was out. Like
Yeah.
very, very cool stuff.
That's
But
how you do it.
that's how you do it. And I also think I found huge benefit in hearing people who like don't make music and their opinions too
Yeah.
on how the
Yeah, yeah.
music like makes them feel.
Exactly.
Because sometimes I feel like, at least me personally, gets so caught up in the technicalities of it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like, is it a good record? Like,
Yeah.
will it stay with you in some way, shape, or form?
Exactly. That is, I do get lost as well in
Yeah.
technicalities. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's good to back up.
You're
and, like,
very technical.
well,
I can
thank
tell.
you.
You're very technical. I just,
Yeah,
it's real.
I'm almost too technical, so I appreciate that, but it's like
Mixed out.
it's
Mixed out.
Thank you,
Ugh,
thank you.
yeah.
I've always been like, because I could sit, like my tracks are always 25 plus versions before I release them. It has always been that way. Like I'll have tracks that I sit on for months, and then I'm like, no, something's not right. Something's just not right about it, and I'll go and dwell on like. And I think all producers do this, dwell on like that like millisecond kick, like is this kick
Yeah.
out? But then like you bring someone in the room that's never heard the track, and they're like, I don't hear a difference.
Well, it's not even that.
You're like, oh shit.
You let it out, and then you don't obsess over it for 3 months, and you go
Exactly.
back and you listen to it on
Mhm.
Spotify, you listen to it on
Yeah.
Dropbox, and you're like, what was I tripping over?
Mhm,
Like, what was
mhm.
I tripping over? Like, oh my God.
It creates like endless cycles of you turning up the kick to turn it back down, to turn it up, to turn it down, and you realize in the end you should have just left it. Like it's not some
Should have just left it.
I go on YouTube a lot for tutorials, and I still do. I always do. I think it's important to do that. It doesn't matter like how technical you think you are or anything like that. Just go and learn because YouTube, first of all, has a lot of kids that are amazing at music.
Incredible.
They'll show you how to do it.
Yeah.
Like you will do 3-word search, and they'll show you exactly how to do it. And I saw this one YouTube video where it was kind of like about like this kid who was super inspired by Quest for Fire, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna make a video about like how to like approach like an album like this or just tracks in general like this. And the whole video wasn't about the side chain, wasn't about the compression, wasn't about the reverb using. He sat back and he was like, don't dwell on the little things too much. As soon as you start to, open up your spectrum analyzer, seeing that there's a peak, but the peak sounded good, like why are you going in and changing it? Just leave it. there's no one to tell you that there's a certain structure, and music does not need to have a structure. Like, you can do whatever you want at the end of the day. So now you're letting like a computer tell you that you need to fix something, like just that. And it was like it was a great video. I wish I could credit him. I really wish I could, because I wanted to God, I'll go look for it. But it was so good, because it wasn't.
We'll drop it in the comments of the podcast.
someone-
Let us know this was the video.
it was so good. It was just him explaining, like, don't just turn up the snare to turn it down, to turn it up to turn it down. Just think about why you put the snare there in the first place. Like, really just back up. And I think the biggest advice would be give yourself breaks. Because when you stop listening to a track for months and you come back, when you come back to it, you're like, oh my God, that was so easy to fix. Like, why didn't I just leave it that way? Or why didn't I change this? Why didn't I do that? But yeah, I loved that video, because it had nothing to do with technical. It was just like, you just really have to think about, like, don't listen to yourself over and over and over again, listening to the same goddamn snare. You're trying to EQ and you're trying to do all these crazy things. Like, if it's unnecessary, it's unnecessary. It'll sound great. There's a reason we put Fly says this. Fly is a great producer as well that I collaborate with a lot. There's a reason we put the things there in the first place.
Yes.
There's a reason we chose that one and put it in the project file.
You double think. You double check yourself. You go, wait, does that need to be there? Does this need to be here?
And it is always good to double check, do your thing, do your analyzing. I still use like a lot of spectral analyzers.
Box spin. Yeah, there's things for free that people use all the way up the ladder that are so easy. So looking under the hood with you saying that, did you say your post-processing's fucking crazy or very simple?
No, post-processing is I don't do anything post-processing. So unless it's like, I don't have a master chain, like I pretty much just shove things into like a clipper.
You running into a saturator or a limiter? Or?
I just sometimes don't even use limiters nowadays. I'll use a limiter if it's like an aggressively clipped track. Like if it's like 10 decibels over for some random reason, I for sure am gonna like slap like, I love Pro L. I love that plugin.
The best. Fat filter, shout out.
Fat filter's great.
Yeah, the best.
Or like I like the invisible limiters I think they're using now, or anything like the newfangled. Those are great mastering plugins. But then again, like I think for me personally, it's all in the mixdowns. I don't process my kicks. I don't really process my snares. I don't really,
the sample selection.
Yeah, it's
finding the best sample possible.
Because I'm gonna be honest with everyone, I use the same kick for so long. I just change the top end of it once in a while, like to make the, or maybe the second kick in the pack, like that I just found to like.
No one gives a fuck.
No, and
no one gives a fuck.
It's not. Yeah, it'll always sound different because of the style of track, the tempo, all these things. But yeah, I think it's really important to just find a sample that you like, stick with it. And just don't worry about it if it's not affecting anything. So, like balance things. I like to keep, the kick loudest, snare second loudest, percussion kind of, sits almost in the back, but more on the sides. So, and then it's some of my biggest tracks are like 5 layers. And I know like Peekaboo could say the same.
And Matt says the same shit. I know.
Just 5 layers.
The first production lesson I ever took was from Matt.
Oh, no way.
When I was like a little jit. Yeah.
He's a great producer.
He's a great producer. And it was all in simplicity. All in simplicity and sample selection. And he doesn't even do crazy stuff with VSTs. It's just resampling.
Yeah, exactly.
Just resampling.
Exactly.
It's incredible.
I do a lot of VST work, and I'm a sound design nerd.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to like,
what do you love using?
It. So I like a lot of them. I like Serum for like my most of my sound design crazy stuff.
Okay.
I made Noxious in a program called Razor, which is Razor's more creative.
Yeah.
But I think so. I am willing to open up any VST in terms of like a sound design thing and just go in it, because I think I just made myself understand. Okay, here's oscillator A. Whatever I'm in. Here's oscillator A. Here's oscillator B. There's my filter. There's my post stuff. There's my LFOs. There's my envelopes. So now it's just like anything I've ever worked in. So I like hardware for that reason too.
Yes.
I'm very into like, I have a Mother 32 at home that I love. Some of my greatest tracks in that I love the most, I should say, like my Billie Eilish flip of Therefore I Am. I did that on my SH10A. It was like a recreation of the SH101, like a little rolling guy. And it was just like I did the whole track with it. But I think it's just, I don't know, even when it's breaking it down all the way to sound design, I think it's important about the fundamental. I think I used to do lessons a lot. So I love this conversation, first of all, but I used
I
to,
do
I
too.
used to have like,
You're making my job
yeah,
so
no,
easy.
yeah.
God, I love
I had-
it.
I had like a lot of students, and they would, we'd do them over like Zoom, and unfortunately I had to stop doing them because of time, because
You're touring all over, yeah.
it got crazy. But they were all great. They were all amazing students. But I always told them, like, it it is about the simplicity. So if you want to make a crazy sound, maybe start, understand what a sine wave versus a pulse wave can do at the very base, the very fundamental of your sound. Understand that, you don't have to use these crazy serum wavetables to get the crazy sound. You can use a sine wave and then really start to like distort it, or like, turn things up one at a time, and explore what it's doing to the sine wave. Like what layering two sine waves can do, what a little bit of noise on top, and then like order of operations, I would call it.
Absolutely.
Like, to see why you're putting your reverb after your
Have
distortion.
to obtain the information.
exactly,
That's
yeah.
the hardest light bulb moment with students, is like, it's like everybody's such a different type of learner, but
Right.
when you can like show them visually, like, hey, look at this EQ, and when we apply saturation to this
Yeah,
sine wave, look at
exactly.
all of the harmonics that
harmonics
come
will
out
show
of it.
up.
It's
Exactly.
finding those little things, but it all comes from
Mhm.
simple ass shit. It doesn't come
It
from
does.
saying, here's the preset pack that you have no fucking clue
Yeah,
what this
because then you're
does.
not learning.
Yeah,
how
they're
to do
not.
it.
No.
Like if you hear like a crazy virtual riot noise, I think it's cool to go in and start with a sine wave, and then you try and do it, because then you're gonna learn so much.
Yeah.
And again, order of operations when it comes to that thing, like, it's so important. Like, you can always be creative and distort your reverb and do crazy things like that, but almost it's good to understand why you're doing that. Like, understand why you would normally put reverb after distortion, or put reverb after your like multi-band compression. Like, things like that are just so, because then you can do whatever you want.
Why are we gonna
yeah.
EQ this to fit into this space and still have the
Exactly.
sound? Yeah, it's
Exactly.
and when it goes off, it's like the first time that you learned what automation was, or the difference
Mhm.
between MIDI and audio. You're just like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. I feel like the first like 2 years, and also teaching, I think, is one of the best things that you can do as a producer.
Oh my gosh, it is.
It's to be able
Easily.
to like reiterate and really explain what is compression, what is saturation,
a
why
lot
are we
teaching.
doing this?
Exactly.
You learn so much.
You learn a lot teaching.
You go, holy shit, I don't understand this at all, and I'm
Exactly.
teaching kids. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's how you really master something, is if you're able to teach it. That goes for anything outside of music.
Anything.
My mom's a teacher, and I think I've always loved teaching so much. I'm very inspired by her. She's a very
Aw.
inspiring woman. But I think, like, as a, what would you call it? Like, when I started doing lessons, like as a producer, I was so invested in teaching, because then I would come out of these lessons and I would be like, oh my God, I had a realization. I would go and make crazy ideas, or like start crazy ideas. I was genuinely inspired by my students. Like, what I was giving to my students, they were giving right back to me. Like, and it
It's
was
so
so
cool.
cool.
When
Yeah.
you see, especially it's like when somebody brings you a project and you're like, a year ago, you didn't know like what a DAW was. And
Yeah.
now you're like in this making a full fucking song,
Yep.
and it's crazy. It's
Yep.
it's a very cool feeling that I don't think can be replicated by many things.
No.
But
No.
God, okay, we could do this conversation forever.
Yeah.
What time is it? Do we have a time? 10?
Okay. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut that
Yeah.
part
No.
out.
Yeah. You're
But
totally fine.
such a lovely conversation. I
thank
want to
you.
talk about the headline tour just really
Oh
quickly.
yeah.
So
Yeah. I
like
would love to. No, I
highlight
appreciate it.
moments, and do you love, like, now that you've played so many festivals
Yeah.
and intimate venues, and now you're headlining the more intimate venues,
Yeah.
do you like the more intimate feel? Do you love the festivals? I know they're vastly different.
They're much different.
Okay.
I love festivals, because I think a lot of the festivals that I played, like Bonnaroo, for example, like Electric Forest, that's how people really discovered me. And that gave me a stage. It gave me people to show what I can do. Like that was why I think festivals are super cool. Cause like there's half the time, like half of the crowd has no idea who you are, and they're just ready to, see the next artist on the lineup. And it's an exciting feeling, because then you go and play, your set, and then you have all these new fans that are like, oh yeah, I saw him at Forest, I saw him at Bonnaroo, and it was, that's why I'm a fan now. So I think that's really, really, really cool. I think festivals are great for like the exposure, like, and things like that. They're also just a great experience, because then you can go and see all your favorite acts too. Like I saw KG Elephant, like Red Hot Chili Peppers and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, this is amazing.
So cool.
But the intimate venues are so dope. Because they're, why they're there, especially when you're headlining, and it feels amazing. It's like I'm grateful for every single person that buys a ticket, every single person that walks in, every single person that brings their friends, that wears the jerseys, that really shows love, that I get to talk to after the shows too. Because then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing something. Like I'm making, you know, some dent in this industry that's so big, especially now. It's like so, you know, I don't know. So it feels amazing. The intimate venues feel amazing. The headline tour has been literally this. I would say this is the best year of my life, and the headline tour has to do a lot with it. Like I know I have my visual guy over there, but he's crushing it. Shout out Matthew.
Shout out, Matt.
Yeah, he's seriously, because I've never had time coded visuals. I didn't have much of a visual presence before this.
Love sending the
now-
visual pack in with the
Yeah,
logo, and you're like,
exactly.
run it. I hope this doesn't fuck
I had
me.
Godzilla in my visuals prior, and I know I still keep them in like my my festival ones, but I just think that's so funny because they were kind of just like from my management team, and they just like gave them to me and slapped the logo on. But now that I'm having a time coded set and things that like I'm making a whole experience, I feel like for the people, and I feel like I have a new responsibility, and it feels really good. It feels like I have new motivation, new inspiration, new everything.
So
So I'll like turn back and be like, oh my gosh, like it's really cool. I think Eptic inspired this shit out of me because when he was at my house and we were making we made our collab, and then he came back for a Chicago show, and he was just kind of messing with his visuals, and I'm so inspired by him. He is like, I think just being able to do that, like I'm not good at drawing. I'm really
yeah,
not.
yeah.
But I think it's really cool that he has a visual identity and separates himself. And
Yes.
as well as being like an insanely good producer that like never misses ever. And he's able to
I
do
think
his
you
own
guys run
shit.
parallel, to be honest. Because if I think about bass music and just EDM in general, I'm like, how I can count on honestly one hand how many people's tracks I can hear out of the blue or from a side stage and go, that was epic. That was LYNY. You guys are on parallel there, but it all comes down to
Thank you.
the sound design, the sound and mixed down sound design. Again, another mixed down like king. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's incredible. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
He is incredible.
He's
That's-
incredible. He's incredible.
Yeah, but he's
So excited.
hired me to do the visuals and stuff. Like,
Love it.
gave me the kick. I was like, you know what? I want to do this. I want to get at least something on my screen now.
I want to have
Like, it's-
something.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Like,
can't wait to see tonight. We're gonna see it
yeah.
tonight.
Oh, yeah. And Mr. Baller, I am so
Okay.
excited to put these up. I'm so
Hold it.
excited.
Oh my
but-
god, I can't wait.
Yeah.
That's gonna be fucking
Yeah.
awesome. Dude, LYNY, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you.
today. We have to do
Seriously.
this
Thank you,
another
thank you.
time,
Yeah,
please.
I'd love to.
And
And
we
just
can
open
talk
the audio.
shop for like everything. All the little audio
Mhm.
heads are gonna love it. And
Yeah,
and I
of course.
hope, you know, fans will listen and learn some new things about you.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
This was so sweet. All right, cool. Bye guys.
LYNY.